Hello cherubs, welcome back to my channel. I am going to do the Occult tag today. I am a year late, but I think, you know what, I've been wanting to do it on and off. Every time I've seen one come up on my feed, I think the questions are really engaging. I have no idea what I would answer to any of them actually, and I've kind of forgotten now what they were. But I just saw a Occult tag video on my recommended this morning, and I was like, you know what? That was a beautiful little tag, and I never got involved, so I'm going to do it right now, okay? Thank you so much to Ella Harrison, Polish Folk Witch, and Redheaded Witch for bringing this incredible tag into the world. It's a deep dive into really sort of like witchy social media, the concept of online community, how it's affected us as witches positively, negatively, all the rest. So I'm interested to get into this as someone who's long been a practicing witch that also does hang out on social media. I'm intrigued to know what is going to come up in my answers. Yeah, I'm just going to wing it completely. I have not sat and written notes and thought carefully about what I'm going to answer. I'm just going to read the questions and go for it. So let's get started. Okay, so it says, introduce yourself. How long have you been participating in the witchcraft online space? What practices and topics do you discuss primarily? Okay, well, hello, my name is Kellyanne Maddox. I am a freewheeling chaos witch. I have been participating in the witchcraft online space since 2011, which is when I started my now defunct tarot blog. So before I had a YouTube or anything, I had a tarot blog called The Four Queens, and that's where everything started for me. Although I was lurking a long time before that, okay? So I was lurking since about 2004, 2005 on the forums and stuff. But I did not make my entrance until 2011. Writing my tarot blog. And what practices and topics do I primarily discuss? I talk about a number of things. So I discuss certain aspects of witchcraft. Mainly it's the philosophy of freewheeling, sovereign, customized witchcraft, tailored and tweaked to your needs, honoring both aspects of traditional craft and anything that comes out of your own wild mind. I'm interested in talking about chaos magic. I talk about shadow work. I talk a lot about tarot as well on the channel. I'm a full-time tarot reader. So there's a few different things. I also go into some, delve into some psychology stuff like shadow work, obviously would be more in that vein, inner child healing and things like that, but from a psycho-spiritual perspective, right? From a mystical perspective. I talk about all sorts. I've talked about my shitty, toxic past relationship on here. It can go a little bit off-road with me, I will say.
Where we don't need roads.
What is my personal reasoning or inspiration behind starting my practice online? Oh, wow, that's a really interesting one. So as I said, I was a lurker for quite a long time on various pagan forums. And then I came over onto YouTube and I was lurking there. I was watching a bunch of really awesome witches, most of whom do not upload anymore. And I started to just get this feeling that I also had something that I wanted to contribute. I didn't originally think that I wanted to talk about witchcraft. I thought I wanted to talk exclusively about tarot, and that's what I did for my first few videos. But there was a lot of tarot talk, and there was a lot of talk about things that I was interested in and doing. And I just felt like I want to join the conversation. I want to be part of the conversation. And it probably felt a lot more like I was entering a conversation back then, because there were witches, but there were far less of them, and YouTube was far smaller, right? So really, it was just a sense that there were some things that I wasn't seeing being talked about, that I wanted to share from my perspective. And I really wanted to do more than just lurk. Like, I was watching these witches talking so enthusiastically about tarot and about their practice, and I wanted a piece of that. It looked fun, it looked creative, and I've always been into creative, public facing, kind of like, I've done theatre, darling. I've done TV.
What's missing here?
Brandon sounds bored. He should be more...
What? Charming?
Yeah,
Okay, and what is charm?
just being nice to someone, making them feel good and special,
But isn't it really being nice to get what you want?
I suppose.
And what does he want?
Her.
So he's using it to get into her knickers.
I've done all that. So there's also that sense of like, oh, I love the camera. Camera loves me. Oh, when can we get this started? So it was kind of like that basically. Yeah, it was to share, it was to be part of community, it was to be helpful as well. I've always wanted my videos to be helpful. There are some, rambles in there and some kind of like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Things in there. But most of the time when I'm making a video, I'm thinking about how it could potentially serve or assist someone. What am I looking to achieve by participating? Do I seek to educate, learn, or connect? All of the above. Yeah, educating, learning, and connecting. I seek them all. I do them all, and they've all gone pretty well for me, to be honest. And I think as I've gone through in my life online as a witch, they've been in a beautiful harmony, kind of like a bit of a Three of Cups vibe. They dance together. Sometimes I'm doing a lot of learning, sometimes I'm doing a lot of teaching, and sometimes I feel like the main thing I'm doing is connecting. But if all three can come together and dance, that's the beautiful bit. That's where the sweet spot is for me. How do I believe social media as a whole has impacted the community? Um, that is a really difficult question. I I wasn't really part of the witchcraft community before I came online. I never sought out a coven. I never attended any pagan moots until later on in my life. And even then, not on a regular basis and not in any way where I felt I wanted to be part of any in person coven. Of course, I've been to Stonehenge. I've like danced around with everybody. I've been to rituals. I've been to pagan festivals occasionally, but um, I never felt like I was in pagan community or witchy community. So I can't really say how it's impacted it. I can say how I think it's impacted people in general who had interests and then took their interests online. And I would say that obviously it's a very mixed bag. Some people get very insecure about it. Some people feel that they haven't received enough validation for what they've posted, and so they wonder if they're wrong or something. Some people get very egoic about it, they get very competitive. Some people get obsessed with it. Some people have a grand time and make friends for life and learn tons of new things and feel that they finally found their people that they can nerd out with. So it's a mixed bag, isn't it? Like everything, I think witches have those same issues. Oh, how do I think social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have each impacted education or sharing information? What do you think? I think. I mean, look, we know that there is a lot of very chopped up, very coarsely done information out there. We know that TikTok in particular encourages just this really short form content. And it's got to be really punchy. It's got to be really like in your face to get the algorithm to pay attention to it. And, I've said on this channel before, I have seen a lot of tarot tuition on TikTok that is just it's really not for me. It doesn't go into the complexities of the cards. It doesn't explain things well. A lot of it is extremely bossy, extremely like, this is it, that's that, that's not it, done. And I get why they're doing it. It's because they want views and they want engagement, and that's how you're supposed to do it. And it's supposed to be really like super sharp shooter, but like, I don't just respect the tool, please. Like, and I've seen a lot of that with the spellcraft stuff too. It's I do think it's important if we're getting these very short, sharp bursts of information, in the same way that I feel this about politics online, right? I think wherever we're getting our short, sharp bursts of pithy, exciting, maybe aesthetically pleasing information, we're going away and we're doing something with that. We're really looking at whether or not that has any basis. We're looking at other sources that back that up. There is a lot of inspiring stuff, just helping you to feel inspired and fizzy and good about your craft. I don't think that needs its sources citing. That's just nice. It's just a nice thing to watch. But the information stuff is quite often really heavy handed, really bossy, really domineering, not well cited. And yeah, there's a lot of that going around, isn't there? Let's face it. Okay, this one is very interesting. Is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? I mean, I can only speak for me, right? Because I don't know what goes on in other witches' practices, and I would never like to presume what goes on in their practices. I think for me, it has not been a substitute for my practice, but because I'm a public facing witch and a witchcraft author and everything, I have had to figure out what is going on when it comes to what is public facing and what is about my audience and what is about my private time and what is about my private devotion, right? And there have been some bits there where I had to figure out, how to make the crunchy bits a little bit more smooth. Basically, it's difficult. It is a weird juggling act that I didn't have before I came on YouTube, right? So there is that. But do I think that watching, like consuming witchcraft content becomes a substitute for practice? How could it ever be? That's like saying, do you watch a marathon as a substitute for going for a run? I mean, it's not the same. It is not the same. I love watching witches doing things and teaching things or showing things or whatever, explaining things, but like that's no substitute for actual practice. It's no substitute for the feelings that are going to come through in you, and the sense of devotion that you're going to experience. Like, that. I think what happens when a lot of people I think basically what happens, right? If I read the question again, is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? Like right now on social media, when you look at witch hashtags and stuff, there are like a fuck ton of things out there. There's a lot more witches all the time coming onto platforms. There's a lot more stuff going on, being taught, and like just different movements and different courses and stuff like that. I think it appears to people that all people are fucking doing in witchcraft is either making the content or consuming the content, and nobody is going outside, right? I've seen this in comment sections before of people going, I remember back in my day, we all used to go outside and just like dance under the light of the moon. There was none of this putting stuff on Instagram crap. And I read that and I think, yeah, what? I mean, this person could have literally taken an image of their altar and then gone outside and danced under the light of the moon. Like, you have no idea what they did with the rest of their day. Like, calm down. It's very easy for me to record a whole bunch of fucking things for my business and still have an extremely full day. It's very easy for me to take a photograph of my ritual candle and then carry on with the ritual. I don't do that all the time, but I did that the other day so I could share it with Instagram. And I was still in the middle of my practice. It wasn't a setup. It's the actual candle, okay? It's the actual fucking candle is right here, all right? I'm burning the rest of it on a special night. So yeah, I still was doing practice. I still felt completely sated from that practice. I think that it can look a lot worse than it is, right? It's not all witches all the time posting things and consuming things all the time. It's just that there are more witches and they will be doing that at various times. But the rest of the time, they could well be doing their practice. And I think unless they tell me that they're not, unless they actually say to me, fucking out, all I do is consume witchcraft stuff instead of practicing, then I'm not really that inclined to sit here and be like, yeah, it seems like a lot of witches are just consuming witchcraft content instead of doing anything. It's like, how the fuck would I know that? I know that for me, that's not true. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't consume that much witchcraft content on YouTube anymore. I actually binge watched Thorn Mooney's channel the other day because I hadn't seen anything from her. And it's not because I don't love watching her anymore. It's because I don't really watch witchcraft stuff. I go through massive phases where I just don't really watch that much witchcraft stuff. So yeah, if anything is keeping me from my practice, it ain't that. Right, onward men, onward we go. Okay, so out of what I share on social media, how much of it is staged versus reality? Okay, so basically, I will say I don't actually produce that much content that includes me doing spells or rituals or anything of that nature. It's not usually what I do. I usually sit and talk to camera, don't I? That's what I do mostly. Sometimes I take you out for a little walk. But mostly I'm sitting and talking to camera. So this doesn't really apply to me that much. However, the stuff that I have done so far, like for example, a few months ago, I did a little bit of poppet work and a little bit of cauldron work so I could show you guys, how I do. That was not workings, that was staged. So I set the poppet up, put the crystals on it as I normally would, but it's just to show you what I do with the poppet. And same with the cauldron. I wrote something down, I put it in the cauldron, but there was no intention there. It was just for the visuals, darling. It was just for the visuals. The first time that I have ever done anything like for real to camera was actually the other day in my vlog video that I put out. That was real. I had my overhead tripod. over the working, and I just switched the camera on at regular intervals and then turned it off again. I was not sure how this was going to go. So I didn't get my hopes up that it was going to be really high vibe and amazing because I didn't know. But actually, it was great. It didn't interrupt me at all. I felt fine. So you can probably expect quite a few more real things to be happening on my channel from now on because I've never tried that before. I thought it would be way too intimate and like, it'd be annoying having the camera there. Even though I've had the camera there for other things before, I do things with my camera and the altar and stuff like that that I want to film, that I want to remember. But I thought, oh, you know what? If you're concentrating on setting this up for YouTube, maybe it's not going to be the best. I was wrong. I was wrong. It was very good. So yeah, I've done some stage stuff and I've done some real stuff, but really I'm not the best person to ask this question to because I don't do demo stuff that often. I don't do actually witchy activity that often on my channel, but like I said, expect more of that. Do I think there is an element of censorship in online spaces? How do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what to keep privately? Is this based on social media etiquette or a personal preference? Oh, there is a lot there. Assuming that you mean self-censorship, because obviously we do understand about like social media forms of censorship, right? Like we know that's going to distract me. We know that like social media platforms censor certain things like nudity or whatever, or any fucking thing to do with Palestine, pretty much. No, I mean, I exaggerate, but it is a bit of a nightmare right now. Censorship on social media platforms, let's not talk about that. But self-censorship, I think there's definitely some boundaries that people put in place, and there's some things that they don't say for various reasons because they don't know how it's going to be taken, because they think they might be attacked for it, because they aren't sure really how to voice it, how to word it, and so they think they might word it wrongly. Various forms of self censorship, yes. For me, how do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what to keep privately? There's a very simple way that I do it, really. Is it really a lot to do with somebody else's story? Somebody that I don't want to expose? I mean, I would never name names anyway here. But like, is it to do with family members, for example, who have been through traumas or been through difficulties? And however I feel about them now, I don't want to go into their shit on the internet. So that's one way of knowing. Another way of knowing is, have I processed it personally? If it's to do with my story, have I adequately processed it? Have I discussed it in therapy? Have I written in my journal about it? Have I taken it to my goddesses? Have I done ritual around it? If not, why the fuck am I putting it on the internet? Like, I haven't done any of my own work around that, you know? Another way of knowing is, what was the other thing I was going to say? I made a list before I sort of really started doing videos online. I made a list about things that I feel like should be out of bounds or that would be risky for me boundaries wise. So I kind of like gave myself a little reminder of, what is actually something that you would want to keep to yourself, you know? And is it based on social media etiquette or personal preference? I don't base a single fucking thing that I ever do in my life on pretty much any etiquette at all whatsoever. I know the etiquette, but rules are made to be broken, okay? Everything I do online is down to personal preference. I don't care what the social media etiquette is. I'm a Sag. I'm a Sagittarius. Okay, I'll say no more.
Sagittarius. I like Sagittarians. You can trust them.
Have I ever encountered or heard of grifters in our community? Do I recognize them? What are significant signs of grifters in the community? Grifters, assuming by grifters you mean like people that take your money but don't really do what they're supposed to do, or they're kind of like hacks. They're kind of hucksters. Is hucksters another word for it? I don't know. But yeah, people that are really not doing what they say they can do, and they're not really providing the service they were going to provide, or they're maybe massively overcharging for it. I think it's like everybody under that umbrella. I have heard about grifters in the community for sure. I have had to actually undo quite a lot of the damage that witches, professional witches, have done when they have clearly tried to take advantage of someone that has later on come to me feeling very upset about the situation. This has happened a lot of times over the years I've been doing my work. People come to me wanting reassurances that what a certain witch or mentor or service provider told them was not true. And when they've told me what that witch has said, I'm like, whoa, okay, that was way out of line. That was so unethical. Certainly I've heard stories about bad situations where people have gone to retreats or something like that and they've been badly treated and they have been charged more than they were thought to be charged and they were not put in the accommodation they were supposed to be, and the person that said they were going to be there every day leading drum circles was never there at all. And I've heard of these things. I think that's in the grifter territory, isn't it, really? I try not to worry too much about witches that charge way more than I would charge. I think in some traditions, it is actually quite culturally normative to have to pay big bucks for a witch to do certain things. So if it's a tradition that I'm not a part of, I don't really want to have a part of judging what those witches do. But I do think it's very griftery if somebody goes for a reading and the person does the reading and they say, "Oh, you've got a curse on you, and if you give me £300, I'll take the curse away." Like, all of that is just bullshit. That's grifter shit, and I don't like that. And I do hear about that, and it's not okay. And it brings down the entire art of tarot, and it winds me up. All right, it winds me up, son. All right. What tools are helpful to decipher misinformation, and how can we as a community prevent widespread misinformation? I think if there's misinformation, the only thing we can really do to prevent it is to counterbalance it with actually the correct information. Stitch that TikTok, like write your own Substack about something, do what you got to do. If you know that the correct information, do what you got to do to, like, come in and be a warrior for the correct info. Definitely do that. And I have a few times seen things in the community that I felt were damaging or dangerous or dogmatic or whatever, and I've made an effort to create a video or put out a message on social media just saying, hey, like, let's temper that. Let's also look at this direction. So I've done my own bits and pieces of kind of like smoothing out what I consider to be dangerous advice or misinformation, for sure. How can we deal with misinformation? What was the question? How can we decipher misinformation? Research, baby. Research. Ask a witch that knows more than you. I've done that plenty of times. Just cite things, just check things. Yeah, delve a little deeper than Wikipedia. Go for it. Wikipedia is great for all the bibliography, the suggested reading, though. Definitely do that. But yeah, it's just literally following your own nose, wanting to figure out for sure where those sources come from. Can I see any information that counters it? What is the consensus amongst anthropologists or scientists or whatever now? These things. How does a large following impact the perception of the creator? Does this immediately make them an expert? Or are there other assumptions as to why they may have a large following? Yeah, somebody that has a large following could purely have that large following because they're very good at marketing and branding, because they have a very cool aesthetic, because they have tapped into the zeitgeist in some way and they're providing something that people find to be special or engaging or kind of moreish, It doesn't have to mean actually that they're an expert in anything. A lot of people that engage with witchcraft content aren't even actually looking for expert advice all the time. They're looking for inspiration. Like, I would actually argue that this is a lot of the reason people watch me. It's not because they're really looking for like very deep academic insight into something. It's because they're looking for kind of like a bit of a friendly kick up the arse to get back in the driver's seat or think about things differently. So I think when somebody has a very large following, of course, it's not indicative of them being an expert. I would have to see other things to make that assessment. But what it is indicative of is that they are doing something right to be able to hoover up the eyeballs. I will say with this part, how does a large following impact the perception of the creator? It was my following. It's not a gigantic following, but it was my loyal, steadfast, and steadily growing following that got me a book deal. There's no doubt. So it does open doors. It does make people consider you for things. It definitely helps, obviously, in the publishing industry. It really helps if it appears that there are a crowd of people who are already invested in your book. They want to buy the book that you're going to put out. So those things actually make a difference. If you actually want to get your foot in any doors, having a audience can give a certain perception that you're known and you've done your work to gain that captive audience. So I think in terms of that, it made me look like someone who is capable of writing a book that could end up being a bestseller, which is what happened. So that part, I would say, definitely positively impacted me. How does one maintain the balance of authenticity and content creation? Um, I mean, to be honest with you, authenticity is a really weird word because I do think we are different versions of ourselves and we have all different parts of ourselves. And there are some parts of me that you will never see. And there's actually some parts of me that I present on YouTube that actually a lot of people in my life don't see. A lot of people in my life do not see me talking on and on and on enthusiastically about hell or about like fucking, self-love rituals. They don't see that. We don't talk about that together. In the same way, you guys are probably never going to see me off my tits at a techno rave, but that is another thing I like to do. So, authenticity, what is it? I think what is the most authentic thing about me is that I just said that to you, that like there's different bits of me. They're basically all me. They're under the me umbrella, but they don't all come out at the same time. And they're not all fucking having the same idea, right? About what is a good time or what is true. So as long as I can identify those different parts and those different motivations, and I'm honest with you about the fact that I'm not some like clean living fucking guru that's channeling angels. I'm just not that. I'm just a gal trying to get along. Do a few spells here and there. Why am I doing accents today? Stop. Yeah, so it's basically that essentially. I think authenticity is really knowing that about yourself instead of freaking out and thinking, "Oh my God, am I being authentic in this content creation?" You can just know that there is an aspect of yourself or several aspects of yourself that come through during your content creation. As long as you're satisfied that they are parts of you, nobody needs to see the other bits of you, like the bit of you that sobs in therapy or the bit of you that, tells racy jokes and has wild flirtations with a male friend of yours, or the bit of you that, I don't know, like is catty towards your mother, or that it's fine. There's loads of different bits of you, all right? There's loads of different awesome bits of you and bits of you that you would never want to put on the internet. As long as you know that and you're not trying to be this like actual whole authentic you, because that can never be the case. Just be as close to how you want to be on camera as possible. Try and get comfortable, drop your shoulders, relax, have fun with it. Enjoy it. Feel like it's actually an enjoyable thing. And I think the real you comes through. My clients tell me all the time that I'm no different one to one doing sessions with them than I am on camera on YouTube. So I think that is a success. When I follow other creators in the community space, does it make me feel genuinely inspired and empowered, or does it create feelings of FOMO and being less than? Um, it's probably both, to be honest with you. Most of the time, I feel inspired and empowered, but it depends what's going on with me. If I've got some shit going on in my reality and I'm already feeling a little bit crappy, or like I didn't do something I should have done, or I'm just feeling a little bit less than anyway, probably watching certain things in the witchcraft space is not going to help. But that's nothing to do with the other witch. Obviously, it's to do with me. I need to own that shit. I need to get a grip. I need to stop watching it until I feel better, you know? If I experience FOMO, has it ever left me feeling vulnerable to be taken advantage of financially or otherwise? An example would be the need to purchase the latest popular product or book to fit in. I've done that a few times in the past, and I have spoken about witchy consumerism and witchy materialism on my channel. It's definitely something that I'm familiar with. I do not do that anymore. I occasionally do get inspired to add a tool or a deck or something to my practice if I see a witch using it and I think, oh, that looks like a fucking piece of me. Maybe I need that. But I write it down on a list that I keep in my Filofax of things that I may wish to buy. It's like a wish list. And I use it when I've got a bit of excess income and I go through it and I think, do I want anything on this list? Half the time, about half the things on the list I never buy because I wrote them down a bit compulsively and I decide later that I don't need them. But some things I have written on the list and I've ended up buying them. So actually, that's how I got a crystal ball. I just kept seeing witches using crystal balls. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to like fucking upgrade my life. And I have two now, and I'm so glad. I love them. I love them. I sell crystal ball readings. It was a good time. But yeah, there's definitely been times where I haven't felt like, oh, I need that or I'm not going to be a decent witch, but I've definitely thought, what's that? And then thought, hang on, do you need that? You probably have something just like it, Kellyanne. Stop, okay? When practicing my craft, do I find myself comparing what I do to what I've been seeing people do online? Yeah, a bit, but not in a negative way. Just kind of like if somebody is dressing their candle a certain way that I've never seen before, or they're throwing their runes in a way that I've never seen, or, they have an altar set up that's really different to anything that I've ever really thought of doing. I'm like, huh, okay. Or just if a witch does something really quite differently to me, if they hold their tools differently, or if they think really differently about something and they explain it really differently than I would, I think, "Oh, that's really different to me," And do I want to actually also take on a little bit of that point of view? Is that gonna be helpful? Do I need to think of doing it that way? I've also seen witches do a lot of things that have made life easier for me. Because when I've seen them do it, I'm like, "Oh, that's how I should do it. Oh, that's looks so much easier or so much more streamlined or so much more enjoyable." So, just by watching witches do things that I've been doing the hard way, I think to myself, "Oh, okay, there's another way. Thank you. Thank you, witch on the internet." So it's kind of a bit more like that than anything. I don't think I sit there and negatively compare. I have a little bit of negative comparison when it comes to business stuff, but again, it's only when things are not right with me, I don't really believe that I'm not you know, very, very much proficient at what I do and I deserve my audience. I don't really believe that I don't deserve those things or those things aren't true. But if I'm having a bad day, some things I see on the internet may make me feel thus. In what ways do I combat imposter syndrome? I don't have any imposter syndrome around witchcraft. Um, I have imposter syndrome around being a witchcraft author sometimes. And the way that I battle that is just through recognizing that the things that I have to say, people want to read in book form. People want to be able to own a collection of my thoughts and suggestions and compassionate writing for them. They want to own it. And that I never said at any point that I was this massive academic witch. I never said I was going to write a big, thick tome with all of these sources and all of this deep. I never fucking said that I do that. That's not what I do. So that also battles the witchy author imposter syndrome, is just this reminder that, like, well, I never fucking said I was going to do that thing that I'm telling myself I don't deserve to be able to say I can do. I never said I could do it. It's not the type of author that I am. So it's also just coming back to, like, what did I say I could provide? Am I providing it? Yes. Okay. Well, then no one can say that you're trying to be something you're not, because you never said you were that thing. What would my practice look like without the social media influence of other creators? Oh my God, that's a really good question. What would my practice look like without the influence of other social media creators? I mean, I probably feel a bit lonely, because even though I don't want to be in a coven and I don't hanker after much face-to-face community in the kind of ritual setting or the moot setting or anything like that, really. Um, I think that the online witchy world makes me feel plugged in. It makes me feel connected. I like the conversations. I love my Patreon. I love, like, the comment sections where people are debating and discussing, and, like, yeah, I like to feel like I'm with my people, but they're from all over the world and they're doing all kinds of different things. So yeah, I think that it makes me feel warm and fuzzy to be able to access that every day. And if I couldn't do that, I'd be a lonely little witch, right? Not really being able to have maybe some of the conversations that I most love to have, that I now get to have all the time with audience members, with fellow witches online, with clients. So yeah, lonely, I guess. I'd be lonely. But I don't think I'm too terribly influenced in any negative way by other social media witchy content creators. So, do I consider online communities as equally valid to in person communities? Yeah, of course, naturally. There are some qualities that are different between online communities and in-person communities, and those things can never be replicated inside each other, right? Like, you're going to get a different vibe from in person than you're going to get online, in various ways. It's going to be a different experience, but it's not going to be, I don't see one as superior at all in any way. Um, and I think for a lot of people, online community is an absolute godsend. It helps people that are chronically ill that can't go to community events in person. It helps people that have chronic anxiety. It helps people like me who just, I don't really like know if I want that much fucking face to faceness all the time, but I do want chats and I do want, like, yeah, basically it's great, you know. I mean, I'm an online tarot reader, so I've had this question before of like, do you think it hinders your ability to read tarot for people? And I would say 1000% no. No, it doesn't. I've been doing this job for years. I have many, many, many happy repeat clients. So something's going right. So yeah, I don't see any difference. I don't see any hierarchy. How have online occult or witchcraft communities impacted me as a person and practitioner? Well, I'll say two things. They've impacted me positively in that they've given me access to so much information and understanding about how different witches do things. And they've impacted me positively again in the sense that some of them have shown me exactly what kind of practitioner I fucking don't want to be and what kinds of things I don't want to be involved in. Okay. If anybody was around at the end of the 2010s from like 2007 to like 2011, 2012, you will know there were witch wars galore on YouTube. Witch wars were burning and raging. And I remember just like having my little popcorn moment where I was like, this is fucked. This is so not what community is supposed to be about. This is like literally witches threatening each other with hexes and like, you need to do your shadow work. Bitch, you need to do your shadow work. It's like, I think we all could do with some shadow work right now, girls. Come on. It was just fucking wild. So yeah, there's some parts of witchcraft community that made me realize how I never want to be honest. Um, and I've also met a few fucking bastards as well, but I didn't let them grind me down. There's people that like told lies about me and tried to take down my whole business or decided to fucking dress up as my exact replica and steal all of my content and pass it off as their own. These things happen every now and again, darlings, but you just keep it moving. Okay, so what are some of the dangers of the current phenomenon of capitalizing off of the witchcraft community? There's so much I could say here, and this video is already going to be super long. So, one thing that is coming to mind right now, I could write an essay on this, but one thing that's coming to mind right now is that I think that witchcraft might be a little bit like psychedelic drugs in the sense that I don't think it would be a very good idea if we made LSD available in like Urban Outfitters, like I feel like people need to go on a bit of a journey to discover LSD and talk to people that have done it and potentially do it in a safe environment with others who've done it, whatever, right? I think of witchcraft as the same. If we put loads of occult shit and witchcraft books in like Urban Outfitters, and where else have I seen them? Lots of places, right? Like I've seen dishes with occult things on. I've seen lots and lots of mainstream witchy shit as we've gone through this wave of the popularity of the witchy aesthetic and witchy books and stuff. I think if we just like have it out there in the wider water because capitalism is vulturing off of it and it's doing well right now, I just wonder if it might like slightly cause people that can't quite handle it or maybe aren't not ready for it. I don't want to sound patronizing, but like I feel like we should discover witchcraft from a different place than like something that was pressed onto a book in Urban Outfitters that's got astrological details and stuff on the inside because it's what's happening right now, like it's making money. I feel like it's better if it's not done that way. But anyway, I can't flesh that out right now because I don't want this video to be too terribly long. And I've only got a little bit of time left to record it. Obviously, like another thing about capitalizing on witchcraft is like the way that there's no respect for any of it. And there's no respect for the things that are already being appropriated by witches that don't know or don't care anyway. But then they get appropriated by like massive perfume companies and massive fashion houses. And I've seen it. I've seen it all. You know, like the capitalists come in and they sweep and clear everything. And what they end up doing is having an even more harmful effect on indigenous groups and closed witchcraft practices that are trying to just really keep their shit. And yeah, they just sweep and clear it, and they hike up the prices, and they change the name of it, and it just, you know, it's ugly. It's ugly, basically. There's lots of appropriation, there's lots of disrespect. You know, there's so much I could say, and I wish I could flesh that out more, because I don't want anyone to come away from this video thinking that I'm saying that there's like a wrong way to find out that you're a witch. I just feel like, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't even have the internet in my house till I was like 13 or 14 years old, guys. I did not have a phone in my hand when I was a kid. I'm that age, okay?
When I feed mine, I tap the touchscreen and keep the bad fat away.
So maybe for me, it's just a little jarring to see books on witchcraft in the place where you go to get your basics for a weekend picnic. It's like, okay, let them find it in a way where they're interested in it and where they don't feel peer pressured into it, and where they, you know, I don't know, when they're in a different mood, when they want to go after that stuff, don't just leave it there. Like, I don't know. If anybody gets what I'm saying, please reassure me. Have I been personally affected by the capitalizing of witchcraft, or have I witnessed someone else be affected? I don't know. I can't think right now if I've seen anyone else be affected, but I think I've felt some weird feelings about it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do I want to talk about this? I feel like it's quite hard to stomach being somebody that's put such a dedicated and consistent body of work into this world on this subject, and is so passionate about this subject, and has been a witch for so many years, to see capitalism get its greedy little mitts on witchcraft, which I know it does every 10 to 15 years. We go through these cycles where everyone's like, I want everything to be witchy. But then because of that, there are all these, I don't know, there's a lot of success that is easily won and easily sort of like what's the word, disseminated out into the world. And it's hard. I feel shouted over sometimes, and I don't know, it's all complicated, because can I blame capitalism for that, or I need to write a fucking essay about this? I'm not sure. This is essay style shit. This is a really hard tag. Should there be paywalled communities and online courses? I mean, yeah, I think of course, like I have a paywalled community on Patreon, and it's great. It's just like, it gives people the opportunity to invest in my work for tons of extra resources every month, and for us to have conversations that we might not necessarily have outside of that walled off structure. I don't think there should only be paywalled communities and paid courses. I think there should be lots of free shit too. And I think there should be lots of open interactions too. I think doses of both are really good. Doses of both. I think paywalled communities and paid courses can really allow somebody to put a lot in one place and still make sure that it's not taking so much time and effort away from them that they need to find another way to pay rent, you know? So I think that's really great. And of course, I try and keep my prices civilized always. But, you know, like a 3-hour workshop from me will cost you 33 quid, you know? It's not the end of the world. By the way, if you want to check out my workshop that I'm doing at the moment, you can click down below. But yeah, it's going to cost you 33 quid. No one's breaking the bank here. But yes, it is a private workshop. You have to be there or be square. If you weren't there, you won't get it, unless I sell it in the archive one day, maybe. But yeah, I think it creates this sense of like it's an event and it's beautiful, and the person running it and doing all the tech for it, etc., gets paid, of course. Yeah, I think paywall communities can be cute and necessary and valid for making sure the person that's putting so much into it and running it and leading it also can have some sense that they're going to be able to feed themselves from it. Yeah. How does one ensure the authenticity of courses, workshops, memberships, etc., as financial investments? Um, I mean, I wouldn't buy a course out of plain old nowhere without feeling like I know anything about the person that wrote it or the community that's around it or anything like that. I'll do a little bit of delving and make sure that I do want to um put money in the pocket of this person to teach me this thing. I've usually seen free resources from them anyway and been able to be a part of their community on YouTube or Instagram or whatever. So I have a good feeling about them. And I feel like they are the appropriate teacher for me at this time. And to me, that is what makes it into a useful investment. Is if I've wanted the teacher and the teacher has arrived. I'm not taking suggestions here about who else thinks this might be the right teacher or the wrong teacher for me. If I get a good vibe from the classes or the modules or the person that's running it, then yeah, I'll buy it. For sure, as long as it's not gonna break the bank entirely. What are some topics of conversation I'd like to see more of in our community? Oh, okay. I'd like to see more conversations about the civic responsibility of witches, the uh, intersection between witchcraft and politics and political movements. I'd like to see more conversations about witchcraft and activism and how those two things relate to each other. I'd actually like to see more conversations about witchcraft and ecology and climate crisis. I noticed in the past that whenever I posted anything about climate crisis on my Facebook, which was where I was primarily posting at the time, it would just die. It would just sink. It does a bit better when I put it on my Instagram stories, but I found it really interesting. I was like, wow, I'm posting this really important stuff about ecology and about dieback in the Amazon, about land back and what we can do, and it's just sinking. And then I post a picture of me and like, be a fabulous witch, and everybody loves it, right? And I'm not judging anybody for that. I'm just saying that the algorithm doesn't favor it. People don't click on it, probably because it's fucking depressing. So I would like to see more of that taking place. And yeah, I think what else? I'd like to see a few more conversations. I'd like to see not necessarily more conversations, but more people coming to the. Sorry about my rumbling stomach. More people coming to the front and heading up conversations. So I want to definitely see more stuff from disabled witches. I want to see more stuff from witches from different cultures, like witches from different ethnicities that have different thoughts on maybe some of the mainstream witchcraft resources that we have and how they rub along with those things. I'd like to see more conversations coming through from tarot deck creators, and I'd like to. I don't know. I'd like to see more conversations about how we can challenge ourselves in our craft, how we can be better through using our craft to improve our sense of bravery or courage or, action in the community. I would love to actually see more conversations about the reputation of witches in community. And I don't want to be really like respectability politics, like, oh, let's make sure everybody knows that witches are great and we volunteer and we put things in the food bank and we're all round good people. I'm not trying to be all respectability politics about it, but witches are, on the whole, like the witches that I meet, the witches that I hobnob with online, they're fucking lovely people. They do lovely things. And I think it would be interesting to have some discussions about how much of a voice we want to have in our external communities. I know that varies from place to place. Like, I get it. If you're in the deep south, you're not exactly gonna want to get on a fucking podium and be like, hey, I'm a witch. What are my community needs? I don't really have many community needs, to be honest with you. I like the community. I love it when people ask me to get involved with things or come and talk on their channel or get involved in a panel or anything like that. That really warms my heart because I don't get asked that much considering the amount of time I've been around. I don't know if I'm just intimidating or if I'm just annoying, but either way, I love myself, so that's all that matters. So I like that, but I don't need it. And I would prefer that witches don't bitch each other out and be cruel about each other and go into witch war vibes. I do still see a little witch war vibes online, but it's not as hardcore as it was when YouTube was doing it, where it was like, this video is addressed to this witch. And then it was just like fucking 20 minutes of this witch being like, I'm going to cut you up, yeah? It's not like that anymore. It's much more passive aggressive now. And I can tell that something has happened somewhere, and everybody's being, or a lot of people that I'm seeing on threads or Instagram are being passive aggressive about it. So I don't know what's happened. I'm not in the community like that, but something's popped the fuck off and everyone's being fucking passive aggressive. So yeah, I'd like to not see that. I'd like to see people just chatting about what they're doing. And like, but hey, who am I? Who the fuck am I? Where would I like to feel more held and supported? I feel very held and supported by my community, by my subscribers, by the people that buy my book and review my books. I feel held and supported by my publishing company. I feel held and supported in terms of the people that like leave comments for me and get into interactions with me. I feel pretty fucking held and supported, to be honest. Thank you. I need nothing more. Thank you. I even feel held and supported in my activism, even the parts of my activism that unfortunately people find contentious. You guys really, really have my back, and I love you. I do. Where do I feel like I'm not truly being seen by my community? I don't know. I can never seem to really figure out why the algorithm doesn't show me to more people. It's difficult, It's pretty easy to tell what people want to watch from me more, but it's not that easy to tell even when I've done everything right that people want, that the algorithm is going to get me out there. I'm trying to crack it. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay. But yeah, I feel like literally not as seen by my community as I would like to be. I feel like my videos are not showing up in a bunch of feeds where people have clicked to subscribe to me, but they're not seeing my fucking video. So that I will say. And I would say as well, should I say this? I've been here a long time, I feel like I don't know if people are perhaps as aware of certain things about me. Like, for example, the reason everybody uses the term card slinger, that's me. That's because of me. I started a series on my channel called Card Slinger like years ago, and everybody started using it. And I'm really proud of that, but I just don't think people know these things. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, am I like sat here being like, give me my fucking flowers, bitches? I don't really know, but I just feel like I feel like I might have had some influence that people aren't aware of, but do I lose sleep over it? No. How can we help each other in removing the external peer pressure and grow in community? External peer pressure. What does that mean exactly? The external peer pressure. I think we can grow in community by just being in healthy, mature dialogue and enjoying each other. And yeah, sure, staying out of each other's way if we don't vibe with each other's personalities, but not being mean or cruel about it, which mostly I see that happening. So that's really cool. How can we as a community come together more with constructive criticism without it seeming shady or passive aggressive? Here's my answer to that question. Don't make it shady or passive aggressive. Nothing seems shady or passive aggressive, okay? Something only is shady or passive aggressive. It's very, very easy to put your finger on something that is shady or passive aggressive. And that is the only way to stop it, is not to do it, If somebody is worried that they might be doing it, look up shady and passive aggressive, okay? Look it up. Look up what those things are and ask yourself, have I done that in the last few months in Witchy community? How can we as a community do better when we do receive criticism or feedback? Oh, okay, this is a good one. I obviously am no stranger to criticism and feedback. I've had some shitty reviews for my book, and I've had some people say some things about me in Facebook groups that weren't very nice. And I actually remember some of them. I actually heart reacted some of them because I thought they were so fucking good. Like literally I found them or somebody alerted me to them and I just went and heart reacted like this hate train about me, because great insults, really great insults. So to me, I just feel like the way to handle it is, if you don't want to respond and you don't want to get into it, don't. Please know that everybody's entitled to their opinion of you, and everybody will behave however it is that they're likely to behave based on their personality, their past, and what they think is acceptable. What you can do is make sure that you're just nicely shielded and protected. You're hanging out with and hobnobbing with people that you like and you get a good feeling from. You're taking breaks from the internet, go outside, fucking have a Ribena, go for a nice walk, pet a dog, okay? To get away from the internet, don't make it into your whole thing. And if there's really slander going on, if there's really accusations going on, and you feel you need to stick up for yourself, do so. But make it neat and sweet, and then keep it cute and mute. The fuck? Don't let someone drag you into the sandpit, the shit pit, you know? Someone will only sling shit at you for so long before they get bored because you're just not slinging any more shit back. Try and give people the benefit of the doubt. If somebody's given you some criticism and it seems a little bit harsh or it seems a little bit blunt, this is something that I've had to really, really learn. Some people, English is not their first language. Some people, English is not even their second language, baby. They are doing very, very well. Some people are, neurodivergent, and part of the experience of being neurodivergent for them is not to necessarily be able to finesse wording in the ways that they have no idea that they're fucking supposed to, because they're just speaking to you straight, which shouldn't be rude. Certain cultures are like that too. Anyone from the Netherlands here? The Northern European vibes are a lot more straightforward. There isn't all the sexy padding. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, lovely to see. I just wanted to say, but great job on that. A Dutch person just won't fucking do that. They're not being rude. They're just being Dutch. And actually, once you get used to it, it's very sexy. Very sexy. They just go straight in for this could have been better. And you're like, ooh, I love it when you talk to me like that. Never happens in England. In England, you get your head chopped off for that shit. So yeah, culture, all of that, perception, language barriers. Don't bite someone's head off, unless they're really fucking trolling and being a bitch. If they're criticizing you and it seems like a harsh wall of and this, and I think you'll find that this date is wrong. Try not to become very defensive, because honestly, we just don't know tone. And I think that's been something really important for me to learn. Who are some community members that I look up to that are reliable resources and aspirations? Love Ivy the Occultist, love Activist Witch, love Thorn Mooney, obviously. And lately I've been really loving Justin Bennett, the Witch of Enchantment. There's so many more I could list. There really are, but I'll go with those 4 for now. Add any further thoughts, comments, prompt questions of your own, express further points, or offer solutions. Oh, I think you guys have heard enough from me. Oh, you've heard enough from me. This is the longest one I've done in a while, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Please leave all of your thoughts, feelings, critiques, random emojis down below. This has been delightful. I'm sorry that the light has been changing as I've been going through this quest of questions, but the sun is slowly leaving us. This has been a trip. This has been so great. Thank you so much, darlings, for creating this tag. And thank you to me for finally, 1 year later, seeing fit to actually do it. So goodbye from me. And goodbye from Romeo and his kinsman. And I will see you all for more later, potato. Much love, blessed be. Keep it rebellious.